As usual, let's not waste any time and jump right in. So, this is the usual weekly segment where I answer your questions, and these are a lot of submissions from YouTube. So, last week, Patreon, alternate weeks, YouTube, Patreon, but a lot of them on YouTube actually come from Patreon as well. And as usual, none of this is financial advice. This is just edutainment. So, first of all, I know everybody's very concerned about where we are going right now. And I have never seen so much negativity out there in the market, on YouTube, everywhere else. Everybody talks about, we're going to 12K, we're going to 20K, and it just needs to end. So, first of all, a couple of observations that I have is I remain more bullish than ever. As I've said before, the macro backdrop is unbelievably powerful, and money printing continues. And there is only one pristine store of wealth, and that is Bitcoin. Second of all, the Wykoff manipulation seems to be ending. This was the last brave effort. Everybody thought today would be a bloody Sunday. And as usual, nothing happened. And also next week, there's going to be a lot of news coming out, a lot of very good news from the Miami Bitcoin conference in the US. And I think that's going to propel us way above 41,000 and it'll be off from there. So again, big money's coming in, big money's buying the dip. And I hope you all are holding tight. And also this week alone, I heard we have 8 new whole coiners within Patreon, which is awesome. So forget all the negativity. Just think of the big picture. It's all goodness as we go forward. So first question of the day is from Steph Ion. And he says, if you only had some ETH, would you sell half to get some Bitcoin given the dip? So this is an interesting question. And I'd like to answer it in a couple of ways. So first of all, Bitcoin is the most pristine store of value, and everybody needs it due to scarcity. The future is very positive. Also, as you guys know, I like to compare risk with return, and I believe Ethereum is a lot riskier than Bitcoin, believe it or not. But then again, a lot of people talk about the flippening of Bitcoin to Ethereum, i.e., the market cap for Ethereum could be bigger. So we'll see. Now, in July, we have London, which is EIP 1559, etc. And it's not guaranteed, so we don't know. So, but net, I think there's a 10% chance we will hit $1 million in 10 years for Bitcoin. So everyone needs to have a piece. So in answer to your question, yes, you should probably think about selling a little bit of Ethereum to have some Bitcoin. Everybody needs a little bit of Bitcoin. So check that out. And that is the safest bet and the most asymmetric bet of our lifetime. So thank you for the question. Second question came from Jakey. What is your opinion on borrowing against your Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin to earn interest on Bitcoin? So this is obviously very dangerous. So what I'm going to tell you, hopefully doesn't disappoint. But first of all, borrowing to speculate is dangerous in any conditions, whether in Bitcoin or in other markets. It's like trading using leverage, which is not good. Now, imagine you borrow against your Bitcoin and it's 50% collateralized, and then Bitcoin falls 75%. That means you get wiped out. You lose all your Bitcoin and you incur big debts. Now, I understand the importance down the line of being able to borrow against your Bitcoin, but I don't think it's stable enough yet to do that, at least from my perspective. I understand it makes all the sense in the world last year for sure. But right now, just wait and see where it goes. So that would be my advice. And of course, not investment advice. So the next question is from Phil Davies. The crypto and tech stock positions need constantly reducing, and it's causing me a lot of headaches. Any tips for how often you rebalance to allow corrections to do, or do you allow corrections to do some rebalancing for you? So I'm going to talk to you about my whole portfolio rebalancing methodologies, but I'm going to start with a simple example. So imagine you had 10 positions in stocks or crypto in May 2020, and 9 of those positions stayed flat for the year. And that's very common in many cases with equities. But your Ethereum has gone up 12.5x. That means when you look at your portfolio today, you're nearly 60% Ethereum and 40% holding your other equities. So instead of having 10% of everything, you now have 4.6% of everything. So it's just a simple example to put things in perspective. Be ruthless. You got to get rid of losers or get rid of those stocks that you think are close to a top. So when you see people like Kathy Wood selling Apple, that sounds crazy because Apple is one of the best performing stocks of all time. but that's her idea because she believes it's kind of at a top. Will Apple become a $4 trillion market cap? The answer is probably not. That means it's not going to double in value. That means she believes she can make money in better places. So think about that. Not saying buy or sell Apple or anything. I'm just giving you that as an example. The second thing I do is you take profits from winners that you are uncertain about. For example, a speculative altcoin, or when Litecoin had a huge spike a couple of weeks ago, that would be a good time to exit out or take your money off the table. Also, if some equity has suffered a fundamental change or loss of CEO or big competitive impact from some other company or something disruptive destroying a business, then it's time to get out as well. The third element is what I call calendar cleaning, which could be loss harvesting during tax season at the end of a year. Imagine you have a lot of capital gain somewhere and you need to find something to sell at a loss to reduce your overall tax bill. That can happen too, and that can help you rebalance your portfolio. And the fourth thing, and probably my, the example I gave before with Ethereum completely skewing your portfolio, it can be. I held Tesla. I still hold Tesla. We'll talk a little bit about Tesla in a few minutes as well. But when I went to 850, I sold out of the money calls against it because I knew it was at a top, but I bought them back. And anyways, it's one way that you can actually balance your portfolio as well is sell those calls out of the money, position number one. So that's just some of my approaches, but it's very difficult, and don't expect everything to be proportionate as you go. There'll be winners and there'll be losers as we go forward. So thank you for the question, Bill. So next question, I think it's question number 4 or 5 from Mike McDaniel. Why ask someone to pay you in Bitcoin and make them have a taxable event? Why not just get paid in fiat and immediately buy Bitcoin yourself? And what is the advantage of the direct payment? So this is a question that has a number of different aspects to it. So first of all, and it's very broad, it's like a 3-part question. So I'm going to answer a whole bunch of stuff as to the way I see the situation. So first of all, why get paid in Bitcoin? One, it's the most pristine asset. And second of all, it's fast, it's secure, there are no fees, and there's no currency conversion, which is very important. And what I mean by that is, imagine I have somebody in Romania that's asking me to pay them in Bitcoin. So I would have to take US dollars, send them to him in euro, 2 conversions right there, and then he would actually have to, or she would have to convert it to Bitcoin. And that's problematic. And some people want to use just their core asset, being Bitcoin, their core currency, and they want it simply and straightforward. Also, there are no taxes in some jurisdictions. So, for example, if Bitcoin is transferred from my wallet to theirs, you know, it depends on the jurisdiction. If they're in places like Puerto Rico or Portugal or parts of Switzerland, there are no taxes on your Bitcoin, so it's not a problem. It's also mobile. It's very discreet, and I know that has negative connotations. It also has accessibility and no debasement, like holding fiat in a bank. So that's kind of why get paid in Bitcoin. All the thoughts from coin transfer. There's been a couple of changes as well. And first of all, uh, people don't want cash anymore, or to receive it, to transfer it, like I covered before. There's so many fees involved in wiring money, ACH transfers, etc., currency conversions. It's just a whole pain. But with Bitcoin and straight transfer, it's easier. Now I'll give you an example. Imagine you have 1 Bitcoin and you transfer it from your Binance wallet to a Trezor wallet. That is not a taxable event because it's still your asset. It doesn't matter what wallet you have it on. It's only taxable when you sell, i.e., convert it back into something else, like another crypto or US dollars. So and that's just one instance. The other thing is the US Treasury now wants to have a requirement for it. Any transfers above $10,000, you need to report it. That's the same thing they've been doing with cash for over 20 years. And also, transferring as an expense to someone, as I mentioned before, is kind of easier for them. And sometimes they just want to receive Bitcoin and not cash. And I have a cat at my feet. I'm wondering, should I hold on 1 second? Oh, look. Say hello. Whoop. No, you don't. It doesn't like being on the camera. So that was just a cat just wandered onto the situation. So anyway, that is Bitcoin transfers. So next question is from Hassan Rassul. Why do you never mention Litecoin in your videos? And the answer is pretty simple. So, as you all know, Litecoin was created from a copy of Bitcoin source code. And as opposed to forking it from the original blockchain, it was a brand new kind of blockchain, which makes Litecoin a completely new thing. It's not really Bitcoin. And one of the other things that I don't really like about Litecoin, it does have a little bit of a checkered history. When Charlie Lee, kind of the Satoshi Light guy, I think people refer to him as, he thinks of it as Litecoin is digital silver to Bitcoin's digital gold kind of narrative. But he did sell at the top of the last market, and that's gave him a bad reputation, and it made people think that Litecoin was a bit scammy. So I tend to stay away from things that have any type of tarnish on them. The other thing that's important to note is when we look at the chart here, you'll see that a Litecoin over this period of time is up about 186% over the last 3 years, whereas Bitcoin's up about 730%. So if that's not as good a reason as any why not to invest in Litecoin, but invest in the original and the best, that's kind of my take. And that's why I don't push Litecoin. I think this is a better place to place money. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Hassan. So, question from the foundation. This came up. Why did you say you're a fan of proof of work versus proof of stake? So I'm not sure where that came about. As I say, some people argue that the jury is out on proof of stake. We have Ethereum moving over to proof of stake. But let me just talk about what I like and what I don't like about both. So first of all, what I like about Bitcoin proof of work is obviously the proof of work is much more of a free market. We're seeing that right now with the miners moving around. We also see things like the best security, bar none, is on the Bitcoin blockchain. And then proof of work is kind of like mining gold. It does require a lot of effort, again, to keep that $1 trillion almost of market cap secure and safe over time. Now, what I like about proof of stake, lower energy, everybody's pushing towards kind of like Green New Deal, as they call it. And there's no need for mining. For example, in China, a lot of people think that's bad that there's so many Chinese miners, but that's also changing very fast. And it's also faster. It's a faster blockchain. What I don't like about proof of stake is it's hard to settle fork disputes, number one. Number two, those with the most coins win. So those that dump a lot, that can stake a lot of, say, Ethereum, have the most influence over the network. And some people say it's less secure than a completely decentralized proof of work algorithm. So just a couple of thoughts there between proof of stake and the whole green element. Answer to that. So next question from Adron Pierson. Does Elon's antics worry you? And this was a very interesting question. And I've actually been thinking about that a lot. So my thoughts, just to share with you all. First of all, the best brains are single threaded. It means they're very, very, very strong in one particular area. And the guy is undoubtedly a genius. And many geniuses are on the autistic spectrum. So the question is, if he was firing in all 8 cylinders, if he was a very, very balanced brain, would he be able to achieve what he has? And I don't think so. One of the things that is interesting to me is how terrified Elon Musk is afraid of artificial intelligence. But I think the big question you're asking, worried about his antics, will he continue to impact things like the price of Bitcoin? I'm not sure. I think he learned his lesson and he's not going to meddle there too much anymore. But I could be wrong. He might get back to pumping Dogecoin again. And the second thing that people may be concerned about is Tesla safe? And the answer is yes, I'm not concerned about Tesla. He is running a brilliant organization. Even if something did happen to Elon Musk, I think Tesla would continue to develop into the future. It's not just one person that creates all of that as well. It's a very, very large team. As I say, it takes a village. So big thank you to your question. Very good question. And the second last question is from Maria. Thoughts on Amazon as a stock to invest in? So very good question. And I have been in and out of Amazon. I kind of use that as a range rider. I like to get in around 2,900, get out around 3,300. And I've been doing that for a while. However, I'm beginning to reassess that right now because a couple of things. I believe the future is incredibly bright for Amazon. Not as bright as Bitcoin, but still bright nonetheless. And I believe the value of Amazon Web Services alone is probably at least $750 billion. And that is half the market cap of Amazon. So they haven't even begun to monetize that whole area. And if they spun AWS off as a separate company, again, that would be a huge boon to Amazon itself. Now, a lot of analysts peg the 1-year target of Amazon at about $4,200 today, which is $1,000 above where it is now, so about a 30% gain. And I believe that's very achievable. And my target for Amazon by the year 2025 is about $6,000. And I tend to be very conservative with my predictions. There is a couple of concerns, though. One, not really a big concern, but there is a new CEO coming in, or maybe he's already in place. So we'll see exactly if he's as good as the old one. And second of all, the monopoly status. I mean, these guys are just growing so fast and they're just destroying so many other businesses. There might come a time when the government could say, okay, Amazon, you're no longer allowed to have this monopoly position. So they're the two risks to always consider as well, long term into the future. But net, I think it's definitely could be a good 30% gainer a year from now, for sure. So thank you, Maria, for your question. And Sandra B, another quick question. It's a super fast one. How do you keep your purchases in order? So it's kind of difficult. So I do all my options trading on Ameritrade, and they've got a very clean way of managing all of those transactions. But my crypto is across 8 different exchanges, which makes it a real headache. And I don't believe in putting that type of information out in public. So I manage everything using a spreadsheet. And every time I make a transaction, I make a note and I have it all calculated exactly and bring in real time quotes. I'm actually working on a model to share with people on Patreon, but I'm trying to build out a whole bunch of different things, including option pricing, proxies, for example, for Bitcoin to show the total value of Bitcoin over time, and a few other bells and whistles too. So still working on that, but hopefully I've been working on it for a while, but hopefully it'll be out this week. So thank you, Sandra, for your question. And this is a fun question of the day. So from Robert Pullan, how many times a week do you exercise? So it's been very difficult with the pandemic and everything else and gyms shutting down. So last year I found creative ways to build home exercise equipment. I like to work out every single day, if at all possible, combination of cardio with light weight training, and I use a TRX stuff that I configured at home. I have an elliptical here at the house and a treadmill and some free weights and some exercise balls and kettlebells and stuff like that. So again, the pandemic has forced many of us to do things differently, but it's possible to do everything when you set your mind to it. And so I do miss the gym, but I don't know if I'm ever going back to a gym, to be honest. So every day, and I have a little rule that if even if it's a super busy day, I make sure I walk at least 10,000 steps a day as well. So it's very important to move and get exercise and keep things going. So big thank you, everybody. I'm going to open this up to Q&A right now and see what's going on in the chat. Hope you guys can still hear me okay. Papa chat. And I hope it's loud and clear. Maz. Oh, it's funny. What's your max squat, bench, deadlift? So I used to do a lot of weightlifting when I was younger, and I played different types of sports. But when I was at college, and of course, in college everybody has to be very macho, etc. So the most I've ever bench pressed was about 1.6 times my body weight, which at the time was about um, I don't know, it was 180 kilos or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but that's more than 30 years ago. So interesting question. The Walking Red. Do you think Ethereum will require less ETH to be considered a full validator? They could have the amount and double the shard count every few years. Your thoughts? I'm not really sure. There's so many questions that need to still be answered regarding EIP 1559, regarding the burn rate per transactions as well, which could make Ethereum very deflationary. The numbers I have seen so far is it could, with the burn, it could take the inflation rate down to half of 1%, which is actually less than Bitcoin, which could really kind of make Ethereum almost deflationary. But I don't know regarding the full validator requirement. I don't know if they're going to change that at all. I do hope. One of the things that does concern me is the fact that, again, the more you stake, the more control you have, which I think that's a little bit unfair. It's like those with the most coins win type of thing. So let's jump in and see what other questions are there. Why does HBAR do the opposite of BTC as far as price flow? I'm not too sure. I know that know what that question means, Bruce, but maybe you could rephrase in terms of price flow. Samuel Kim, will Matic price drop or have less use case when ETH 2.0 comes out? No, I think it'll still have a use case. There is a little bit of a threatening element from it for sure on Matic, and it has that purpose, but I don't believe it'll change that dramatically. I think the layer 2 speedy uppers, as I call them, will still be required. However, Matic, in terms of the price, I think has run quite far, quite fast. I don't like to chase. So the upside might be limited up until July compared to some of the other solutions out there, like Solana and others. So watch for that. Let me see. So PE Prevost, would you risk a 400K traditional IRA transfer into a crypto IRA? Yeah, not a problem. The crypto IRAs are very, very safe and secure. And I know the top two definitely are. I've had a look at them. And I'm actually going to be doing a crypto IRA video shortly when I get a chance. Question from Ryan Premar. What threat does EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, have killing ETH coin value? I am not sure on that. I'm not sure. I don't have an answer to that question, I'm afraid. But thank you so much for the contribution of the pets. I think I'm still very, very bullish on the ETH coin value going forward. I think there'll be nothing but goodness, especially with the ETH burn from EIP 1559 when that happens in July. So that supply crunch combined with all the staking that's happening, I'm still remain very bullish, but I don't know of the impact on the EVM, to be honest, going forward. So Anuj Shrivestava, the ETH prediction this bull market cycle. So mine is $8,900. I know a lot of people are saying 10 to 20. Some people even say 40,000, but I tend to be a lot more conservative. And after ETH did go to 4,300 very quickly a few weeks ago, that $8,900 is just a doubling from the all-time high, which it depends on what happens during this bull cycle. I expect to see a lot of action in June and July, maybe even earlier, depending on how things go next week. But we'll see. It's hard to say. But one of the reasons I'm very bullish for the summertime is I see a lot of money coming in this summer. So any thoughts on SIA coin? Not yet. One is one I haven't analyzed. My thoughts on Kusama, we started looking into that, and we get more and more impressed. I know a lot of people that bought 3 months ago are doing very well. And I know everybody wants to hear about Thorchain and Rune as well. So we are looking at those, but we got a long list of things to go after. And the focus of this channel is really to look at the top 20 coins that have a really powerful use case. So that wouldn't include things like Doge and a few others. So Rab Miller, 60% Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum, and the other 30% is in Cardano. Is my math rubbish? That's funny. Yeah, you got 110% of stuff there. So something's a little bit heavy. Maybe it's only 20% Cardano to balance it out. But yeah, we'll see. Again, a lot of people are very, very bullish in Cardano. We could really run. It's been volatile. It's all over the place. Retire on Solana. Yes, I have a lot of requests for a retire on Tesla video. I've got one coming up with a combination of some of my favorite altcoins, as well as some Bitcoin and Ethereum, and what you need to be able to retire. And I've had a request for people to want to retire in 5 years versus 10 years. So we're coming out with a new model as well. Palantir, big fan of Palantir. I wish I bought more when it was under 20. I have some and I've been adding, but it looks like it's on a new trajectory now. But who knows? These things are volatile. I'm going to wait until it falls below 20 again, if it even does that, and we'll see. So let me see what else is going on, if I missed anything. Where do you see Cardano going? Yeah, a lot of people are talking about Cardano going to $10 and $20, like big round numbers out of nowhere. I'd be very happy with $3, maybe $5 as the upside. But it really depends on how much market share they can get from Ethereum, if any, and if their smart contract platform actually works. So a lot of unknowns there. So Stephen Sedgwick, is IA just yourself, or how many people are part of the IA team? We are 4 plus some person offshore, 5 people, but it's growing very quickly. So good question. And Maz, thank you. What things do you tell yourself when feeling FOMO? I am ruthless. So there's a lot of temptation right now to buy so much. In fact, yesterday I fought temptation to buy things. So I put together a list of entry prices on 4 different assets over this weekend. And I am very disciplined about my entry points. And if I saw something running, it doesn't mean I will chase. I never chase. And I think it's probably one of the most important lessons, apart from patience and investing, is don't chase things when they're running. Just sit and wait for them to come to you. Have your discipline around your entry level and just wait, wait, wait. And pick about 3 or 4 different targets. Have your entry line ready and have your limit orders ready and just wait and see what falls into your net. That's always been my philosophy. So Sherrod Robertson, MicroStrategy custom buy call sell put strategy is a good play. It was. So MicroStrategy has been hit hard. It is very beaten down compared, but so is Bitcoin, and it is a pure Bitcoin proxy. So think of MicroStrategy now being 90 to 95% Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin suffers, MicroStrategy suffers. But I still, as I remain very bullish on Bitcoin, that means I'm very bullish on MicroStrategy for the future. $3, you cracked me up. Yeah, a lot of people. I know I'm very conservative with my price predictions, but I like to be. So put it this way: if I buy something at $1 and it goes to $3 in 6 months or less, I have 300% of my money. Then I take some off the table and put it somewhere else and let it run. If it goes to $10, it makes my smile bigger. But I don't want to be disappointed. I want to have a guaranteed return on where I invest. And I spend a lot of time looking at all of my price predictions. I always have a super bullish scenario, a medium scenario, and a pessimistic scenario. And I tie my conservative targets to that pessimistic scenario. So if I said to people here on YouTube, I think Cardano could go to $3 or VeChain go to 33 cents, people laugh and they want to hear it's going to go to $20 or $15 or whatever else. But I'd rather just have that, what I call take it to the bank target, something that we can rely on. So big thank you. Again, if you're conservative with the price prediction, especially with the reason I do this as well, just to wrap up on that, is for my Retire On series. I like to make sure that if people are actually planning a retirement, I want to make sure they can achieve those goals. So, for example, 33 ETH, you might only need 18. You might not need 33, but then you can use the other 15 to buy a Lamborghini, whatever you want. Luke, how much do you keep in fiat? That depends. So I keep some money on exchanges in Tether, which I believe is kind of quasi fiat, but it depends. I have working capital that I need for other types of businesses as well. But overall, the percentage is ballpark 15% right now. I'm about 15% fiat. So let me see. That question came up time. I'd never buy a Lamborghini, by the way, but that's the car of choice. Thoughts on BlackBerry long term as a cybersecurity company? Oh my God. Grav, I haven't heard that name BlackBerry for a long time. I used to have a BlackBerry, I don't know, 15 years ago. I used to love the scroll bar on the side, but I don't know anything about BlackBerry now. It's like looking to invest in Nokia. I think it's a dinosaur zombie company. I wouldn't touch it, to be honest. Cool. Well, that's a wrap. Winston Boogie. Yeah, the SL with the gull wings from 1955. That would be a nice car. If you could swap out the petrol engine for an electric one, that'd be cool. All right, that's a wrap, everybody. Sneaker, yeah, keep mining till you hit 40 Ethereum. Go for it. Yes, I am an iPhone guy. Yes, I did have an Android device, but I found the user interface far superior on Apple. So big thank you, everybody. That's a wrap for now. And everybody be safe. And don't worry too much about the market. And be careful of what you listen to. everything should be very good for the future. Cool. Take care, everybody.